What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are gonna be doing a different type of video, and I want to do like a story time. So I'm gonna tell y'all a little story about having like a bad roommate experience when I was living in New York. I don't even know where to start. If you're new here, I did a little like background. I told a little bit of my background in some of my old videos. Pretty much I moved to New York when I was 20 for a job opportunity. And when I was living in New York, I was young. I didn't really have much money. And at the time, I really just subleased in different places. Like I moved to Jersey City first, stayed in Jersey City, hated it. From Jersey City, I moved to Brooklyn. And in Brooklyn, over like the 5.5 years that I was living in New York, I kind of just was bouncing around just roommate to roommate, just trying to find the best, most comfortable place to live, because during that time it was just like I was super just unstable and just I couldn't find like the perfect roommate. Literally, like I don't know what it is, no offense to people that's from New York, but New York got some nasty people for real. That was a rough time for me. Not gonna lie, like that living in New York was a different experience. I worked in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, but Williamsburg is like a super expensive area, and it just like I couldn't find anything within my budget, so I will always be living like I stayed in Bushwick for quite some time. I stayed in Sunset Park. I stayed in Bed-Stuy. I stayed in I'm trying to think, where else did I stay? I feel like there was somewhere else, but my mind just went blank. This particular time, I think I was staying in Bushwick, and my roommates, I was happy to be kind of a little bit closer to Williamsburg because it wasn't really that far as travel, like the commute to get to work. So I kind of like just dealt with it for a long time, and I think I stayed there for probably like a little over a year. This was probably like the longest time that I stayed in one spot in New York, and it was just because even though I wasn't happy with the living situation, my roommates was nasty. Like I hated it, but I dealt with it. And I think the only reason I really dealt with it was just because, like I said, the commute to work, it was just more convenient. At the time, I was always just posting stuff on Craigslist. Like I was looking to sublease a room for 6 months, 3 months, whatever. I would make little Craigslist ads and hope that, people would reach out to me with like potential roommate situations, and if they did, I'll go check out the place. And 9 times out of 10, a lot of the places and a lot of the people that hit me up it was just out of my budget. I couldn't afford it. Majority of the rooms that I paid, and these were rooms, like small rooms, everything that I paid during that time of living out there was like $800 being the lowest and like $1,200 being the most expensive. And like I said, these were for like small rooms, and that was a lot of money, especially for me back then to rent a room, and it was hard. I get a hit on my ad. Like this lady reaches out to me and she's like, I have a spot that she lived in Williamsburg. She lived in Williamsburg on like the other side. I think they call it like the south side. She stayed on the south side of Williamsburg, which was still like, that area isn't as nice as like the north side. It was still like a up and coming process. Like during that time, it was the very beginning stages of them like building it up. So I was still happy to even be in that area because it was right down the street from where I worked, and it was Williamsburg. That's where I wanted to be. And for the price of the room that I was renting, it was $850, which is like a steal. It was too good to be true. I didn't believe it at first. I thought it was a scam, but it was this older lady. I swear she was probably late 40s, early 50s. She reached out to me on Craigslist. She's like, I got a 1-bedroom apartment. I have a family emergency. And if I'm not mistaken, I think she said like one of her family members was sick that lived in Florida, so she's going to be doing a lot of traveling back and forth, and she's just looking for someone to take over, her spot while she's gone. She was like, she said that she's going to be back and forth, but she was like, if you sign a 6-month sublease or whatever the case may be, she was like, I promise you'll only see me it'll be so rare that you see me like I just, when I come back into town, I'll stay for a couple of nights or whatever, but I'll be in and out, and I won't be like, you're gonna pretty much have the whole apartment to yourself. I go look at the place. The place it's well kept. But I'm like, I'm about to be here by myself, straighten it up a little bit. It's cool. It was literally, the apartment was super small. It was probably 500 square feet. The kitchen is right there as soon as you walk in. It's enough room for maybe like a TV and like a small couch. And then it's the bedroom. The bedroom was super small also. I'm like, man, like I could deal with it. 850. I'm staying in Williamsburg. I'm about to have my own place. This was my first time that I was expecting to have my own place in New York. And my hopes, like I was excited. I was geeked for real. When I tell y'all, soon as I moved in and I gave her the deposit, I swear she wasn't there for all of maybe like 3 days. 3 days had passed and she came back. She's like, I'll be back in town later this week, but I'm gonna be in and out. Man, when I tell y'all, this lady, I probably stayed in this place for a good 8 months. After the first time, when I first moved in, she wasn't there for 3 days. After that, I swear she was there almost every day. Like, she just needed someone to help her pay her rent. And like, she was like clocking everything that I do. So, I mean, I'm young at the time. I'm like 21, 20. No, I was probably like 22. Yeah, 21, 22. I mean, I'm living in a new city. I finally made friends. I'm outside. I'm partying. I'm doing whatever I'm doing, right? Dating. And for one, I couldn't have company. Grown man can't bring no company. Like I couldn't do anything. Like no friends could come over, no girls could come over, no nothing. It was like I was staying with my grandmother. So, and then she was an older lady, so out of the respect for her, like, it was weird. It was just a weird situation. Even though like I feel like she scammed me into helping her. Like literally I was paying her rent while she was staying there, and she lied to me and told me like, oh, she made up this whole big scenario making it seem like she wasn't gonna be there, but she was there. So I dealt with it, but during the time of us during the time of me like staying in her place, like I said, she was clocking my every move. Like she would text me like, what time you gonna be back? I'm like, yo, like I never really got into an argument with her just because, like I said, out of the respect that I had for her being just an older lady, like I never like really cut up on her, but she was clocking everything I was doing. She would text me like, what time are you gonna be back? She would send me pictures of like little things that I left out of place in the house. Like she'll send me a picture to my phone like, hey, would you mind next time just like putting this back, or like just on my head about everything. And it was super uncomfortable. Now I did like kind of ask her, I'm like, no disrespect, you said that you had a family member that you were saying that you were going to be going back and forth to Florida because of a family situation when I first moved in, and you were saying that I was going to be having the place to myself, and I've been expecting to have, the place to myself. That's what we agreed on. And she lied again and was like, I'm sorry. We've had somebody that's in Florida that's like kind of been helping take over and looking after my family member. But I think in the next like month and a half, I'm going to go out there for a little while and give you some space because, you're right, blah, blah, blah. This is, like I said, this is probably like 5 months in of me just dealing with it and just being uncomfortable. At this point, I got a roommate in this little bitty apartment, and she's there for the first 5 months every day. So at this point, I kind of just like, I'm like, man, I got to start looking for another place. And after I had that conversation with her where she was like, I'm sorry, I'm going to just go out of town and give you some space. Man, she left for probably a week. No, I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt. She left for like 2 weeks. And came back and was there for the rest of the time that I stayed in that apartment. So at like the 5-month mark, we had that conversation. She's apologized and said, I'm gonna go out of town, give you some space. I'll be gone for a couple months. She was gone for a couple weeks, came back, and she was there for the rest of the way, for the remaining 3 or 4 months that I stayed in that apartment. And it's just weird. Like, New York it just taught me a lot, the way that people live out there, like the whole subleasing thing. And like, I never experienced that being from Michigan, because in Michigan, especially at that time in Michigan, you could get a nice apartment, like a whole 1-2 bedroom apartment in Michigan for like $1,000 a month. You move to New York, where I'm paying $1,000 a month for 1 bedroom, and I still got to share the kitchen, share the bathroom. Now looking back, I think, like I said, the reason why I am as clean as I am, I think, is because I've just learned to appreciate my space, and I've worked hard to get to where I'm at. So I think it's important to just value your space. And I've lived in some pretty messed up situations, and that's just not a good feeling. And it's not a place that's not like how I want my place, my home to feel. So I just take New York as a learning lesson, and it's like, I think New York has scarred me for life, and I'm gonna just stay away from that. I'll visit here and there. Even visiting, I'm kind of just over New York in whole. But I got some crazy stories just like throughout life, that I could definitely share with y'all if you guys like this little story time. It was a little bit different than the usual videos that I do, but yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see y'all next time.